Hi, my name is Alashe. I'm the CEO and founder of CybSafe, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Jason Nurse. Jason is the Director of Science and Research here at CybSafe. Jason, it's great to have you on board. You've recently joined us here at CybSafe, and for those people who are listening, maybe some of the people who don't know you, just tell them a bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And kind of how have you found your way here?
My background really is quite varied. I've always focused on cybersecurity and cybersecurity research. Initially very much in the trust space, then on privacy, but really, especially for the last, let's say 6 to 10 years, I've really been trying to understand security.
You know, we're passionate about research and evidence here at CybSafe. I know that you know that, Jason. But one of the things we're also really proud of and we're really excited about is this kind of collaboration that we've now got with the University of Kent. You've been an academic for some time, working in lots of different academic institutions. Just give us a feel for your academic background and what you're doing now at Kent when you're not here with us at CybSafe.
So firstly, I did my PhD at the University of Warwick, and that was on the topic of e-business security. And it was really interesting back then when we used to actually call security e-security. And, you know, many of us laugh when we look back and we think, you know, we went from data security to information security for a very short period, e-security, before moving on to cybersecurity. But my PhD was very much in the space of e-security and really understanding how can we make businesses more secure. So after that, I decided to join the University of Warwick more full-time as an employee. And what I was super interested in there is risk communication. How do we communicate risk to individuals in a way that they will understand, they'll engage? And what made me actually pretty interested in that as a topic is simply because you can communicate a risk message, so telling someone, be careful about something, and each person will receive that information in different ways. So for me, that started to really get me interested in, well, how do people actually engage on cyber? What do people think about cyber? How do certain messages impact certain people one way and impact other people in a completely different way? Then I started to move much more into the space of human cyber risk. And I did that at the University of Oxford. I was there for 7 really great years, especially focused on the topic of cybersecurity awareness, cybersecurity culture, cybersecurity training. When I left Oxford, I moved to Kent. And at Kent, I know I'm an associate professor in cybersecurity, so that's my current role at Kent. And there, it's very much the same program, really trying to understand how can we really and make a substantial difference when it comes to changing people's opinion and perception with respect to cybersecurity, and really sort of making, in general, cybersecurity better. You know, making it really science-driven.
I love it. I love it. One of the things I think I've definitely seen over the years that I've been looking at this, and actually for our whole journey here at CybSafe, is not just the importance, but the increasing blend between academia, industry, and of course policymakers as well, because policymakers have a really important part to play in this. Jason, I suspect you've seen some quite interesting changes over your time as far as that kind of interaction and interplay between academia and industry and policy. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really changed over the last couple of years, to be honest, because what we have now is a society where technology is touching everything. So for me, I can actually see and I can actually pull through the cutting edge research that I'm seeing in academia into industry. So it's not the typical academic way of working where, you know, you do something and maybe in 5 to 10 years you see an output. I have this relationship where we can actually see ideas being implemented, and in a couple of weeks or months, we can actually see a result. We can see, is this really changing behavior? Is this having the substantial impact that we expect it to have? Okay, let's change, let's be flexible. And I think for me, that's the really mind-blowing opportunity.
That's so good to hear. You know, from the very outset here at CybSafe, ensuring that everything we do is being built on an evidence base, that research base has always been key. And we've had some fantastic people as part of the team and still here as part of the team. So you've come and joined and you're now leading the science and research team, which of course has a number of other scientists involved in the team conducting research, but also our ability to connect with other organizations, other academic institutions, other people doing research. I guess give us a feel for what you think the potential is in that context, because as far as we're concerned, if we're just building a great product, we're probably only doing half of what we could be doing. How do we influence and support some of the great work that's taking place outside of CybSafe?
Yeah, I think this is a really good point. And I think for me, for example, one of the key research agendas that I'm super interested in is this idea of thought leadership. And the key thing is here, yes, you're completely right. There's lots of academic institutions and lots of companies doing some really interesting stuff. And I think one of the key things which I'll be trying to do is start to build those bridges, start to engage. I mean, one of the really good opportunities is even, when you think about CybSafe, is even the idea of PeepSec. So PeepSec allows for academics to submit talks, for industry to submit talks. We can get policymakers on board. We can actually start to really have a substantial difference and not just talk about it.
Yeah, and PeepSec, for those who don't know, is the event that we put on during London Tech Week, which means that we're able to have a conversation with actually anybody who would wish to listen. But of course, during London Tech Week, the eyes of the world really are on London, wanting to know what people are talking about to do with technology, and we're talking about that intersection between people and technology and society and some of the challenges that emerge. Not all of which are security related, actually. They're much broader than that. So I guess maybe if we delve into what we're doing here and what your team are doing here, because the science and research team is probably one of the busiest teams here at CybSafe. You know, you've kind of looking at fundamental research, and you're talking about maybe where the industry is going. At the same time, you're looking at applied research, and actually you're influencing the product itself and making it more effective. But tell us what that looks like in theory. What kinds of things does your team end up working on?
So yeah, I think for me, the setup is great, because what we have now is 4 key work streams within science and research. The first one is research and innovation. In addition to that, we also have the idea of user research. Now, user research is a bit similar, but the key thing about user research is it involves heavy engagement with our customers. So our customers would use the product, they would have feedback, they would have thoughts, they would have suggestions, they would have ideas for new features. All this kind of stuff is a extremely rich ground for us to innovate further. The third one is thought leadership. And CybSafe has always done an excellent job of this. There are a number of ebooks, there are a number of webinars, white papers. So all of these things are there, and all these things have set the bar for thought leadership. So one thing we want to do, and we will continue doing as much as possible, is where appropriate, share these wider. Let's make the world a better place. Let's make industry a better place. Let's raise the bar in industry for what we're seeing coming out there with respect to managing human cyber risk. So then the last thing is this idea of actually education. Within the science and research team, we have a number of people that are quite educated and quite competent in their specific domain. So why only look externally? Why only think, oh, we must kind of raise the bar externally? What about internally? What about ensuring that people know how to do sound user research? What about little courses to educate people when it comes to, well, what exactly is behavior change? So for us, really, that last theme is really about how do we raise the bar internally?
I was talking to one of the engineers the other day, and they said that this, for them, was one of the main reasons they joined CybSafe. Right. They said that as they looked at lots of different organizations, and they looked especially at organizations in the security space, that wasn't a particular focal point for them. It just happened that they had looked at a couple of places. They hadn't come across any organizations that actually had embedded within the organization a science and research core and base that was led by academics and scientists and researchers who then took the time to make sure the organization got better. I know, despite what we might say on camera, that we can be so much better at this, but I love the fact that we are getting better and better. And we're not bad at it at all. And as you say, you're talking about competent people. We've got some excellence in your team. It really is extraordinary. But the fact is, we know that we're on a journey, and I love that about what we're doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. When I joined the team, I was blown away at how excellent the team is. And it really sets the bar for what research is and what science and research should look like in organizations, where not only is there the team, there's a strong team, but the team is embedded across the organization, and the team actually gets to inform decisions with respect to the product, with respect to what's done. So for me, I'm really happy to join the team.
I hear you. We're of course also blessed the fact that, if we're being realistic, we've also got some of the excellence in places outside of the team. The product content team led by Dr. Susie de Bronte. What it actually means is we get the opportunity to do something that I think is really important. Most of our customers, they don't have access to this level of insight, or more importantly, they don't have this access to this level of time. They don't produce academic papers or understand the evidence base. So I guess maybe the challenge when I think about what you're doing is how we bridge that gap so that we can produce a product that's effective and delivers and does what it says, or as you say, where it doesn't, must be really clear so we can adjust, but help our customers who they've got busy jobs, busy lives, and they're trying to do so much, and actually we can take a problem away from them. How does that drive how you think about maybe, for example, how we operate with product squads?
So another way how the science and research team works is not only are we a sort of a separate component or separate arm of the business that only dips in and out where appropriate. This means that as information is coming through or suggestions are coming through from clients or from customers, it means that all of that is also informed by the science and research team.
I think it's so powerful, and indeed it's one of the reasons why I think we're able to move so fast, but also be effective with part of that effectiveness being recognizing where we're not maybe having the impact that we want to have, and therefore we need to make some changes. I think for me, that's why I'm really excited about the evolution of squads here at CybSafe.
You know, even to jump back to the beginning, why I think this idea of interdisciplinary research is super important and super relevant for people today is because research, especially in the topic of cybersecurity, now involves policy. It involves psychology. It involves behavioral science. It involves a bunch of different topics that are quite important to ensuring that we have a good chance at solving the cybersecurity problems that we're engaging with today. I mean, unfortunately, I've spoken to people in the past, and time and time again, I meet people that say, the answer to the cybersecurity problems that we're finding is more and more technology. And they just say, technology is the solution. And it really annoys me because they're sort of approaching it from the factor that, okay, well, we need more cryptography. We need more encryption. We need to remove those silly users from the system.
I also think that one of the things I've certainly recognized is a similar type of almost sometimes one-dimensionalness, if that's even a word, on the side of those of us who are focused on the human aspect of cybersecurity. What do I mean by that? Well, actually, for some time, our industry has been obsessed with the idea that you could train your way out of the problem. And then, of course, it's slightly expanded. You can train and trick your way out. And I kind of describe it now as train, trick, and entertain. Really, this is what we've been doing for so long. Bombard people with training, security awareness training, e-learning. Trick them, smash them with phishing simulations, and just keep doing it until the click rate goes down or the report rate goes up. Or entertain them, make them laugh and happy, so happy and so fun, they find it so funny that they remember all of this and change their behaviors automatically. It's nonsense. And so I think this is the other side of the need for this interdisciplinary approach, which is, where is the evidence that suggests that that bit of training or that funny video or that phishing simulation is going to do what you want for sustainable peace? And the reality is actually, most of the evidence suggests you need to do a bit more than that. It's a little bit more complex.
Yes, I completely agree. And actually, to mention a research paper that recently was released from the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US, what they did was they reflected on the cybersecurity awareness campaigns of a lot of organizations and really trying to understand how was awareness measured, how was the effectiveness of these awareness campaigns measured, and what they found was something very similar to what you're saying. What's out there isn't that great. It doesn't really properly assess the effectiveness. They look much more at compliance. They're much more at the tick boxing exercise. Yes, okay, we can tick the compliance box because we did it. The rates from the phishing simulations were below this amount. So, okay, great, we've done our job. It's not that, it's much more than that. We really need to, and just like you were saying, I do think we need to move beyond that.
So given everything that we've said, Jason, and actually everything that we've got coming up over these next few quarters, what are you most excited about your time here at CybSafe and as you look forward and continue to develop your team?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes me probably the most excited is the opportunity to ensure that we do some really sound research that has a really significant impact on the product offering. For me, that's really all it's about, because I think it's super important. And the product has always been driven by behavioral science, by the science and research. And for me, there's lots of stuff coming out now in terms of what's good security awareness or what's good security awareness training, or how do we assess effectiveness from the research side, from the academic side. And for me, it's really all about that translation. One big difference, massive difference, in academia, typically you would develop an idea, you would work on it for months and months, years and years and years before you can really judge, what's the impact here. One of the big things I'm looking forward to is the fact that we can be much quicker in that process and we can try stuff out and see, is this having the impact we want? Okay, yes it is, fabulous. Is this not having the impact? Okay, how can we change it to make it much more effective, to make our customers happy, to ensure that, of course, the product is a much better product? And for me, that's what I'm super excited about.
That's great. Well, Jason, it's absolutely brilliant having you here. We're really delighted, and I love the idea. Of course, it's a fantastic collaboration with Kent, but the reality is I also think it just embodies what we're talking about here, this idea of academia and industry and policymakers all working together. So thanks, Jason.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me.